Hello and welcome to this special Blackwell Online podcast, recorded on location in Amsterdam, to celebrate the publication of City Pick Amsterdam from Oxygen Books. Titles in this series already published include London, Dublin, Paris and Berlin. Rather than being conventional travel guides, each book presents a kaleidoscope of views of a city, drawing on the work of writers who have been inspired by it. The result is that you see familiar cities through fresh eyes, and new cities with much greater depth of understanding. Amsterdam was a new city to me, and I was very lucky to have as my guide Victor Schiferli, co-editor of City Pick Amsterdam. He took me around the city, introducing me to writers with whom we recorded video interviews, and as we went, we recorded an audio diary, extracts of which you're about to hear. We started in the city's finest bookshop, the Athenaeum, on Spui Square, a name which I still find hard to pronounce, and Victor told me about his own early memories of the city.
Okay, so we're on Spui Square, which you could say is the literary center of Amsterdam, because the Athenaeum bookstore is here, and there is the literary Café de Zwart to our right. When I was growing up, I used to come and visit Amsterdam every fortnight or so, because my father used to live around the corner here at Spuistraat. He used to go to the cafes here, and we used to go to the bookstore here. He would be sitting in the cafe and give me money for a comic magazine, which I would buy across the street and then go back with him and sit in the cafe there. And I would be seeing all these writers, walking by, and I didn't know them personally. And I was looking up at this building, the Athenaeum bookstore, which is a lovely building. It's very high. It's got all these windows. And I was always wondering, well, are there people living there, or is that still the part of the store or not? And I always thought it was a very mysterious building.
After browsing the bookshop, we went out into the square.
Okay, now we're still standing on Spui Square, and we're walking into the direction now of the Café de Zwart, which is on the corner of the Heijsteeg. This is a very tiny alley. And Café de Zwart is a famous place because it's the literary cafe of Amsterdam. And especially on Friday night, there will be a crowd sitting here consisting mostly of publishers, editors, writers, critics, and a few people who want to belong in that circle. Friday is actually also the day most of the reviews come out, the literary pages come out. Once there was a scene, there was an author bursting into the cafe asking one critic, "Are you in fact Mr. So-and-so?" And he said yes, and then he immediately punched him in the face for the review he had done that morning.
Next stop, a square of a very different kind, Dam Square, at the heart of the city, the kind of grand, imposing, but rather soulless space that Amsterdam, happily, doesn't have many of.
So we're on Dam Square now, which is in the heart of Amsterdam, and we're looking at the statue which was erected in honor of the memory of the Dutch soldiers and the other the many persons who have fallen during World War II. And every year on the 4th of May there's a National Remembrance Day. Queen and her family honor the dead with flowers, and there's a ceremony and there's music, etc. And there's 2 minutes of silence every year. And actually this year there was a strange incident. A man started shouting. Somebody said there's a bomb or something, and somebody dropped a suitcase, and a big panic broke out under the audience, and everybody spread and fled, and they were falling over each other, and there were, I think, about 60 injured people. So it's a very strange incident, because actually nothing had happened. It was just some crazy guy shouting. It's probably not the most beautiful place in Amsterdam, and when you arrive in Amsterdam you see Damrak, which is not the prettiest street in Amsterdam, but it's the first street you see, and then you see Dam Square, and it's
unusual, isn't it? Because there are not lots of big open spaces, big sort of monumental spaces in Amsterdam, and this is one such.
That's right. There are not a lot of open spaces in Amsterdam, and then sometimes you read a commentary in the newspaper. People will be saying we don't really have nice squares where you can sit, and there's room to move. And this is all kind of jammed, and this is not really an advertisement for the city.
Still in the square, Victor told me about a tragic event which took place there at the end of the Second World War.
In 1945, when the war had ended, there were still lots of Germans, military Germans in town, obviously. but the English and the Canadian hadn't arrived yet. So it was a bit of a strange situation, because everybody knew the war was over. It was on the radio, rumors flying, and people were so happy after so many years of fear and terror that they all gathered here on the dam square to celebrate. And the Germans were inside a club, a sort of a society where lots of high German military officers, etc., were staying. People never understood why this actually happened. Maybe they were afraid, maybe they were angry, maybe they were provoked by the Dutch. But anyway, they took their rifles and started shooting at the celebrating crowd. I mean, the dam square was packed with people. I think about 70 or 80 people were killed that day. Many were injured. People were hiding behind a little music stand, and which was tiny, you know. And still, the Canadians and the English hadn't arrived. So there was this confusion. Maybe the Germans are going to win, or maybe we aren't liberated. And it was a crazy day. Many people don't know this, of course, when you go to Dam Square. You don't see the traces of history on the buildings. And but this was a black day in history on a cheerful day.